Where are we going? North.
Welcome to Dungeons and Dragons.
Therapeutic benefit in role-playing games.
Welcome to Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh yeah, baby. Your presence quested in exchange for treasures.
Are we talking one treasure each?
Count that.
So,
These fleshy birds, or are they done now that he's done?
Yeah, the birds all just drop.
All out of the air.
Yeah, they just crash into the ground, motionless.
Can we get nutrients out of this to give to Kid Flux?
I mean, I can heal him.
Oh, for sure.
Now that we're,
Kid Flux could definitely feast upon the Trinoceros and heal.
fantastic.
But just for demonstration's sake, could we test one of those little damage roll things, the traumas?
Oh, yeah, let's see. So on the 6 through 20 was nothing happens, and then 1 through 5 different things could happen.
Because I was just curious, just for demonstration purposes, roll and see what you would have gotten if we didn't save you.
Okay. A2.
A2?
Yep.
So in that case, it would have been a head wound. Reduce all rolls by -6. The character is blind until repaired and lose a modification at random.
Oh, I'm glad that's not what happened.
Ow.
It's a good thing Strix could heal you.
Just pick up Kid Flux and just throw him into the Trinoceros and just like feast.
Yeah, so Kid Flux just ejects out of the ostrich and gets thrown into the center of it's like swimming dive into the Trinoceros and starts eating it from within. So actually inside of the Trinoceros, you find a disc.
Like gasp.
Gasp.
Like, what kind of a disc?
Like a CD.
Like
Like a floppy disk.
yeah, like a disc that could be plugged into the noble ass.
I'll emerge from the rhinoceros and like
it
the
make the
ending of
donkeys
Carrie,
rhinos?
just, like, stick my hand up with holding the disc.
What is that? Do we know that it looks like?
Put it in your ass.
So I'm assuming we know that it that's where it goes, right?
Yeah,
That's where you try to put everything, right? And then
Oh, you know.
At this point, it just seems like everything revolves around that ass.
I mean, look how big it is. Wouldn't? Yeah.
Oh, man.
I'm gonna say with your systems rating of 18 that you know that you could interface this disc with the noble ass and kind of just see what it does from there.
Okay, so cool. So like I'll snatch the disc. Well, not snatch. That's impolite. But I will take the disc and plug it in and do what I got to do to make it work.
Okay, so plugging it into the noble ass, in fact, unlocks its full vehicle power. The chariot expands and opens into an enclosed carriage that could fit a second person, a second large biomodus, to manage defenses, while the other person manages repairs and sensors. The cannon is now mounted on top with some protective shielding around it, and the donkeys all grow and converge at the forefront, and it opens up for a pilot to enter. Yeah, so inside your enclosed carriage now, your your defense rating now goes up to 20.
Okay.
The armor provided by the carriage is even higher to 8p/12e.
Okay.
The cannon grows stronger up to 8p.
Okay.
And the standard the adjusted move is now up to 60. Cruising forward through the forest, you get to the edge of the forest, and before you is close to the edge of the island, and there is a large fortress that is much larger than even the mansion that you first started coming from. And the fortress door opens, and a tank comes out of it. So the tank was going to be piloted by Paddywhack, but where you have Paddywhack, the tank is just immobile and does nothing. So we'll skip over the tank. You do harvest from it though, the Sneefy Weefy.
What?
It's a special. It's a special interconnected device.
That goes to the ass.
That goes to the ass. So connecting it to the noble ass. Now it's time for the final form. The donkey now grows even larger and stands upright, drawing in so it just starts drawing. Sorry, I had written this as if Tony was inside of it already. So it has the ability to draw from each of you and like power it in a different way. Basically, we're going Voltron here.
Glory. That's kind of what I imagined. Like this was turning into like a Megazord kind of thing.
Yes.
Kind of what I was thinking.
Are our mechs being morphed into this thing, or is it just drawing our energy?
It's just you individually, separate from the mechs. But it's much better than your mechs.
Okay.
So I'll just read it as if you were all part of it already. Drawing 404's armor around it, so it now looks like kind of like a colossus with layered steel on top of that. The donkey gets minotaur horns. The muscles start bulging, and there's another external layer of armor over the torso. The arms end in super powerful electric fists, and they're like totally disproportionate to the rest of the body, where they're just like massive fists. The carriage that he was Strix was just in floats to the top and is now like a really weird like bicorn hat. The eyes become huge with swirling, glowing green-blue gas inside. The mounted laser is now on top of the left shoulder, and the Rippa is a launchable projectile from within its mouth, and the shrine attaches like shin guards, and now like the donkey can summon swords the size of buses.
Oh man.
So this is now what the noble ass has become with each of you powering parts of it.
And I make it sneeze blood.
And yes, yeah, it can definitely sneeze blood.
Now summon some energy swords for it.
From your new height, you can make out the ship on the other side of the stronghold. But the roof slowly opens, and a four-armed orange dragon-like being with a shifting scythe at the end of its tail and a massive monocle strapped to its right eye. You've made me reveal my final form to you all. I knew you were excellent specimens to bring here. Death shall soon come.
For
But
you.
but for some reason, he almost seems relieved to be fighting you.
Hey guys, so we're not taking the boat. We're gonna be claiming this island.
I'm down with that. So
Okay, so you'll roll your collective combat order to gain initiative. So basically, as long as nobody botches, you'll win.
I didn't botch. Got a total of 17 if it matters.
I got a 19.
I'm at a 24.
So if you're like-
11.
you're like triple, or you're like triple his number. So you'll act first, and you each will just take a turn doing cool stuff with the noble ass. Basically, like everything is at your disposal in gigantic form.
Excellent. So who's first?
Let's just go by the actual combat order for that. I'm pretty sure it's Kid Flux, then Strix, then Cash, then 404.
Okay. And are we abiding by AP at this point?
No.
All right. Well, I will split limbs.
Wield all
And
4
give us-
swords.
Yeah, that's basically the idea. I was trying to decide on the number. I'll split limbs twice for each. Twice, so then 4, and then another time for each. So we get 8 arms on this already ridiculously huge thing. And I'll summon an elemental sword for each arm. I'm not sure what element an orange dragon would be and what would be most effective against it, but I'm not too worried about it. So we'll just do a rainbow of energy swords.
Its weakness is being hit. Doesn't matter if he resists the damage. You hit him enough times, he's gonna die.
The rainbow swords.
Okay, so you formed the Rainbow of Swords. So the Rainbow of Swords, and you start to charge forward. You got the first 4 arms, where this is a 4-armed dragon. He catches all of them by the wrist, but then with the other 4, you then just barrage him across the belly while he's just like wailing out, and just like wounds like all over the place. And then he kicks the donkey backwards, separating the two of you, while he clutches his stomach, which is slowly regenerating. And he looks down at it and then looks back up.
Okay.
When he looks back up, does he look does he look defeated, or is he like, haha, I'm regenerating?
He
Just looks pissed.
looks pissed that you wounded him. But not necessarily like I've won the day or anything.
Right.
He looks like he's got an ulterior motive.
So I think I'm up next.
Mhm.
So I'm going to have basically the noble ass like just make sure he's looking directly at him, open the mouth, Rippa, and have Rippa just launch out directly at his face.
Sneeze the blood first, weaken him.
I want to use Rippa.
You can use both.
Oh, actually, I guess I could because we're not going by AP cost, right?
Correct.
So-
And also, the blood doesn't cost AP. You just sneeze it.
That's free.
Fair enough. So first I sneeze, then Rippa comes out. Or as I say Rippa, it's like Rippa.
Blast everything.
No, like when I say pa.
Explosion of blood, and then the ripper
Explosion
just
of
shoots
blood.
out the middle.
Yeah. So then you get like Rippa gets like hits, and then you get like this bombardment of like this corrosive blood on you afterwards, and it's not a good time. The burns, and this isn't flesh, I guess. So never mind.
So
Still
yes,
burns.
Yeah, so you sneeze blood, screaming Rippa in his face. His monocle manages to protect one eye, but the other one goes like this and starts falling back. And with that momentum, Ripple launches forward and just crashes directly into his nose. And he just does like a full fallback and starts breaking half of the fortress from a seated position. And then it's just like trying to like clean himself off when Cash now acts.
I would like to do the full might of my fist powers. So the shock knuckles, electrify, super fist, blah blah blah. Any sort of like any stops that were there, pull them all out. It's being punched in right now.
Jaeger charge.
Jaeger charge with it too. Might as well. Just for more added effect. Just I know it's not ranged, but we'll do the ranged thing for the cool effect of just add that much more of a punch, and the shells will shoot out the elbows.
So you PI power up, point forward, and in a mere half second, the entire mass of the noble ass is just forward. Like it was like straight up the Flash. Like it was almost like a teleportation how fast this was, where the fist is now just inside of this stomach, and he's just being electrified from within and just sitting there wailing.
Who's up next?
He's debating it. He's debating the finishing blows here.
So, Paradornis is obviously too small to be wielded by, the giant ass. So instead, are we still by the empty tank?
Yes. Yeah.
Good. I'm picking it up by the, I guess the cannon and wielding that as a weapon. And then proceeding to Jaeger charge and boost as much into cannibalize as I can as I charge in.
So you take your fist out of the stomach, take a couple steps back, pick up the tank. And
No, I don't think I retract the fist. I mean, I have like 3 available arms, so I figure 2 of the arms is holding the tank.
Okay. Oh, fair.
And then I use the retracting portion of it to pull myself towards the boss instead of like Jaeger charging into it.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
And just using that forward momentum for the cannibalized swing.
So and then you just see just an insane amount of like the nanites like crawling out, and the core just charging up again. And they cover the tank, and with the 3 arms just completely cave in the dragon's face, and the tank starts just like already like feasting away at the dragon, and you pull it out, and from the dragon just starts deteriorating, and you see a core that you would recognize to be like a Biomodus core just fall to the ground.
Pick up the core and
Yep. So you crush the core. He's donezo. Okay, so after the final battle, a sphere of moving darkness comes from the ship and devours like almost instantaneously everything that's remains of the dragon. This darkness dissipates, and you see a figure standing there holding the staff that you all recognize to in fact be a biomodi of legend, the librarian. and he's notorious for collecting genetic materials from all over the globe. And he wields astronomical power, like one of the 5 most powerful beings on the planet. And he looks up and he just starts hovering upward to face you eye level. I never thought that the day would come when I'd harvest Mangascon. He's brought so many worthy samples to me for decades in exchange for old knowledge and resources. He was truly interesting. His son had a one-of-a-kind bioforge that kept him small and rejected all of the modern adaptations we have. But I was at last able to create a unique ultralight case, the first of its kind, and kept him alive. Now I can truly harvest and study him too. I offer you this chance. Take Mangascon's place. Summon genetic specimens here in exchange for knowledge, power, and resources. Or return to the wastes. Never welcome here again.
I like
knowledge, resources, and pie.
Oh, we still have what's his name? Paddywhack.
Is Paddywhack his son?
What is the? What are the circumstances of this deal in terms of staying here and drawing in individuals? Because earlier we were talking about using his former servant for making a pie business, which technically would raise a lot of interest and bring in a lot of potential new people of interesting walks of life.
You know of where the servant is?
Yeah, I have him inside of my body right now. It's not the best feeling in the world.
Oh, his son yet lives. I had thought that you would have killed him.
Nope.
No, we were gonna put him into slavery and make pies.
Saving snack for later.
Semantics. What I would require of you is to use my ships to search the globe and collect whatever specimens you thought may be worthy for expanding my collection.
Oh, okay, we can do that in shifts, right?
Should you wish to sell pies, I of course can provide the most advanced genetic pies on the planet. The knowledge that I possess far surpasses any.
Okay, we won.
Let's make an old, have you seen those like old pictures in those ruins of like what I believe they're called theme parks? Let's work on that. We're drawing a lot of attention. We're going to make a lot of trade here and maybe sell some people on the side. That's not important.
But what's important here is there might be roller coasters.
And a lot of people giving us stuff to make our own whatever empire here bigger in terms of wealth and power.
Empire, you say?
Empire.
Yes. Empire.
Nah.
Can we reshape the island to form a pie, like a triangle, like a pipe, somehow? I don't know. Just
That's
saying.
the name of this island now.
Island.
Yes, island.
And it's Pyland, and the theme park will be called Empire, with the pie capitalized.
Yeah.
And joining Conrad Nate for the Therapeutic wrap-up is Project Biomodus creator, Bear Winters.
Bear, what did you think of our gameplay and I guess the whole series? You didn't see it, saw it, so what did you think?
I laughed my ass off throughout a lot of it, truthfully. It was good. It's always amazing to me to see what kind of characters people come up with, and I think point by games, especially where you have control over the character's aesthetics, there's no expectation as to what your character looks like. It brings out this kind of weird dark zone creativity in all the players. It's like I'm going to make a giant murder baby, and knowing that the players are using those tools to create crazy things like 404 is just I love the way he's played, and everybody like and doing weird stuff like stuffing an NPC into an internal, like I'd never thought of using it like that. There was no reason for me to ever think that an NPC would ever be stuffed into an internal like containment unit. But
hey, we needed him for later.
and it was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. Like the spirit of the game was well represented.
That's fantastic to hear. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's amazing to hear that from you.
Like normally when I run games, they're a little bit they're not as batshit, but they certainly get there sometimes. Whenever I run convention games, it's all they've always turned out to just be insanity. Half the players die, another one got swallowed by a melancorth, someone else took a flying leap off a building and impaled themselves on a radio tower. It was really bizarre.
Awesome.
I'm not going to spoil anything because I know the last two episodes haven't been released yet.
Oh, this is going to be at the tail end of the last episode.
Oh, we're talking from the future.
Right, we're in the future now.
We're in the future now. Just at the end, like the fortress opens up and it's a giant dragon fighting Voltron. Like that is absolutely in the spirit of Project Biomodus. Like you guys absolutely did fantastic. Like there was one thing where someone asked if you could spend forge points to double up on the interface rating. To open the bunker, I think. Normally, you can't do that in the game. You can't double up on forge points, but I don't give a shit because, like, you guys had a cost and it made it fun and it got something done and it forwarded the story. Like, it was, who cares? Like, I'm absolutely in the frame where, like, if you don't like a rule or you want to change it so it keeps the story going, absolutely, go ahead. Like, it was a perfect example. Like it was, and it's great for me. It's the most rewarding feeling.
I think that's definitely in terms of just kind of like this, the level of creativity that you're permitted, for if you're playing this with like, especially like younger audiences, who may not grasp like what nanotech even is. Like as you were saying before about the ability to make, there's no expectation on like what your character appears and what you can do. It's all just on the table. And
funnily enough, I found that younger players actually adapt to the idea of not having to stick to a human form easier than older players. One of the first playtests I did at KublaCon, I had a young girl called Amara turn up, and she was, I think, 11 at the time. She came with another player, and they asked if she could sit in and join. And later on, I managed to get on with the family really well, and they're all amazing people, absolutely amazing people. And Amara made this like four-armed, gun-wielding anime bunny girl or something like that. She went to town. She was like, I want that, and I want that, and I want that, and it didn't matter to her how it was put together. She just knew that she had four arms and big guns and she could turn invisible, and she loved it. And she rocked it as well. She knew she was the one that got eaten by the melancorth because she decided, like, in the last round to just go charge it because she was sick of it and just wanted to punch it in the face. I was like, you realize you're probably going to get eaten? She's like, cool. She loved it, and it's weird how, like, if you just hand them the keys to the kingdom of creativity, they'll run with it.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense because I feel like children just have this sense of imagination that you kind of grow out of as you get older. At least I think most people do. Like, I mean, I know I used to like be, like if you would have given me like a list of things like that as a kid, and I would have come up with all these crazy ideas and stuff myself. And like now it's a lot harder for me to come up with a character or things like that as I'm a little bit older, because I think I'm just kind of so much more confined to the basis of reality. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We are tainted by physics.
Yeah,
which is the thing. Like when it's the same thing. Kids think they're immortal. As we get older, we become more self-aware and we become more aware of our limitations.
I kind of want to touch on the way creativity works and with like youth versus like age, and it's kind of like three facets when looking at that, at least from my standpoint. So you have one, your brain begins very malleable, like it's clay. As you like develop new things, like you're constantly just producing new neurotransmitters and forming new connections, and as you age, like your brain matter continues to settle and harden, and that's where we get all the way till senior citizens, when all they can remember is the old days and they can't learn new information because your brain's not making those new neurotransmitters. Like your connections are made and that's it. And it is very important in terms of even just like your own intellect and brain health to continue forming new neurotransmitters, and you do that through like these creative releases. It's like an example is just like you look in a mirror and you used to have like super long hair, and then you just like shave it, and the way like you view yourself, like all of a sudden you have to form these new connections because like, okay, I don't appear with long hair anymore, and I'm viewing myself and your brain has to adjust to that. So you're forming new connections and new neurotransmitters. So from all of that standpoint, Project Biomodus is excellent because you're like taking things that you may see like in a rigid context and putting them together to make something new that you may not have thought of. And even just my own like review of like the book and like the Typhometi, who like all are, flesh and all of that. And I know it wasn't like preset, right? Which like Nate played as. And then it's like, but then taking like a flesh character and not making it humanoid or animal and making it just a floating orb, which was like bizarre to put together, but like doing things like that, like it sounds strange for me to say that, but it's actually like good for your brain health to like make stuff like that.
Project Biomodus, like your form is about as malleable as your haircut. Like, today I'm gonna get in a snake body, and I desperately wanted that to be a core part of it because I think if we had the ability to do so, we probably would. I think humanity is a little bit more adaptable than some people give it credit for. I mean, you look at how humans engage trauma responses to deal with various events in their life that could cause them psychological harm, and people suffer from body dysmorphia today without even having to become like a snake creature. Now, if you can imagine that the nanite interface that you have with your core in the case is just a synthetic one, and it rewrites engrams in the brain to be able to seamlessly, one for one, be able to pilot whatever new form you take. I think humanity would actually adapt to that pretty well.
Yeah, and with like evolutionary psychology, so like the biological imperative to move on, like all the studies that they've done show diversity is like what we want, and I mean that from like genetic diversity. So like there's a study where they took a series of people who had perspired into towels, and they would have people who had no idea what they looked like or anything. They would smell the towels, and like the pheromones, based on that, they would rate the levels of attractiveness. And they consistently found that people had the most different from you genetic material were the most attractive, based purely on the pheromones. So like our bodies are seeking to match and pass on conflicting, or not necessarily conflicting, but different, as far different as possible genetic information. And because over time, I mean, we've become what we are from a series of mutations. And so I think what you're saying about the adaptability and evolution, like, yeah, the human, we are what we are from changing so much over time. And the ability to adapt and move forward in the future, I think that's all spot on, based on this.
Oh, again, it would be a lucky guess if it was, because I'm not a geneticist or a psychologist. I can't lay claim to saying that anything that I did or created was there with some kind of scientific background or a manifesto of things that needed to be done. It's not really that wasn't really in the scope. I just really wanted to build a world, and I'm glad that it seems to fall in line with that. But it's I think as people make RPGs, like in the modern day, there is a burden of responsibility to make sure that you are not repeating the mistakes of the past. I talked about this a little in my Discord, because my goal is I don't want anybody to be uncomfortable playing the game, and if that means throwing out a rule that I've made to make sure that everybody feels comfortable and accepted and wanted at the table, that is paramount to me. Like, throw out half the book if you want. Like, if it means that everybody is on the same page and they can have fun and they're in a situation where they are safe and accepted, go ahead, do it. Trash the book, I don't care. On that same time, I can say when I wrote this, I did not have that. I was not as emotionally aware of how much of that burden rested on me as a creator. And I think if I had done it again in the future, I would be a bit more willing to engage people that have a bit more history in genetics or culture or different areas of the world, so I could make sure that I was not doing it in injustice. Now, thankfully, the setting kind of helps me in that, because society and humanity as a whole no longer exists. Like, it's gone. It's a whole new world. But the concept of it's still the descendants of people and humans. It's human beings are complicated, and our history is complicated. And
you can say that again.
Yeah, like being a human is complex beyond reason. If you took someone from the Dark Ages and brought them today, they'd probably die of shock, right? But if you took someone from the Dark Ages and brought them to the 1600s, it would be crazy, but it wouldn't be so much of a. And so there's this scale to measure the difference in time between someone coming from the past and dying of shock in the future. And as we're advancing, that distance is closing. You could take someone from the Neanderthal period of humanity and bring them into 1500s, and they probably would still be all right. But 1500s to today, they most likely have a heart attack if they saw cars and roads and skyscrapers, and show them their first horror movie and watch them curl into the fetal position. And as that time is getting shorter, there's a train of thought that's going to be that we're going to make so many progressions in technology that time distance will shorten to a couple of years or weeks or possibly days. To me, I can't remember where I was going with this, but human beings are complicated. We're complicated, and yet at the same time we're incredibly traditional, and we try to adhere to some level of stability because we need that. Desire change, and yet we seek stability, and sometimes those are not congruent. And I think Project Biomodus is a world where all stability went out the window and became nothing but change.
The agency of having such an open world it allows a lot of room for thought. In the study of identity and what it means to be human and all of that, you can play this game and you just can ask all those questions. You don't need to have people try to fill in answers. Another thing you were saying is we really don't know what's going to happen when it comes to something like this in this world. But I think gearing and turning into the transhumanism concept and saying humans are complicated, and we've been studying and thinking about it for as long as humans have been studying and thinking. We can go trace it back to the big philosophers and the fountain of youth, what it means to transcend humanity also is different over time. And so it's both of those. What does it mean to be human, and at what level are we transcending it and shedding it? So, if we are able to genetically modify ourselves to eliminate all disease, but we find that it's the same genetics repeating, and that in itself, we know that if it's like cloning and keeping the same genetics over and over, those bodies deteriorate much faster. So maybe you shed one problem, but you've created another. Yep. And you've modified your genetics. So at what point it's we define humans by genetics, by thought, by culture. There's so many things that go into the definition of human, and then to alter any one of those, are we still human, and what is our identity in relationship to those different things. So
on a granular level, we've already done that. We're doing it right now. The new COVID vaccine is an mRNA vaccine. You're literally injecting a code into the body to have it generate the spike protein on the COVID virus, so you can pick it. The body can detect it immediately, create an antibody for it, and then when the actual illness comes along, your body's already yeah, I know what your game is, and nukes the spike protein. And that is a very sort of layman understanding of what's going on, but that is at its core a way of getting our DNA to create something that it wouldn't normally be exposed to. We already also have full limb prosthesis. It's not as responsive as the people on DARPA, the guys at DARPA. I was looking at some of the work they were doing on replacement limbs, full amputation limbs, and using brain signals and muscle twitches to do actual digit movement. And then we've got more technology like the Neuralace, that thing by Elon Musk, which could convert brain signals directly to a prosthesis. In its later incarnations, maybe, who knows? We're already doing that, and I think in the older the more historical looks at transhumanism, it was a very faith-based thing. Like when you to transcend humanity was to become holy, or to become closer to God, or more karmically, outside of the cycle, like the concept of nirvana, being removed from the cycle because you've done such nice things and you've transcended the mortal coil. We hit that transition point somewhere along the road where it's now, no, it could be science, and because it's now in the realm of science, it is now potentially achievable. And I think the moment that we realized that it was potentially achievable, it started becoming less like a myth and more like a goal. RNA vaccines, prosthesis, brain-machine interfaces, all of those things will eventually, assuming we don't kill ourselves first, will either be make or break for humanity. We already have, learning algorithms and AI for being able to interpret visual images, and that could be key in cybernetic eyes, using AI language to change it to visual signals for the brain, being different than the organic Mark 1s that we've got. But we are hitting this scarily advanced level of technology where transhumanism is potentially something that we could see within our lifetime. It's maybe unlikely, but I don't, and this is just on a personal note, I don't think humanity is ready for it, because there are so many questions and there are so many political ramifications, societal ramifications, and that's why in the book I decided to make it nobody's choice. It was an event that changed everybody. Like, no one had a choice in it. There was no bickering over politics. It was just, it happened, it's done. Now humanity has to live with it. Because if it were to happen here today without that kind of event, I think we would see a lot of it would go into a more cyberpunk realm, I think, where you would have the haves and the have-nots, and the have-nots would fall into a greater level of poverty and death and survival, and the haves would suddenly become these, like the meths in Altered Carbon, the guys that are, generations of money and riches and fame. And I think that's, that was a good societal take on how humanity might react to the sudden inclusion of immortality. But yeah, transhumanism is scary. And like I said, humans are complicated. Like, we aren't ready as a society to digitize ourselves, or go to a place where a prosthetic becomes an optional cosmetic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you'll know when we've hit transhumanism when the first optional, elective prosthetic gets put on a human being. When someone says, I want to take off my perfectly functional arm and replace it with something else, like, that is kind of like a weird turning point there, because the technology would be better than what we were born with.
Right.
And even if it's not like a full brain replacement or a digitization of the mind, it's just replacing limbs or organs or sensory organs. Like, that's when we've hit the cross point, when that technology is superior to human capability and is effective enough and affordable enough to be as an optional, marketable replacement for the meat you were born with. Then that is a very scary turning point. And
in the 70s, the concept of Darth Vader, if you look at him, his entire body is powered by machines. All of his limbs are machine. His organs are machine. And
breathing,
yeah. We look at today, and it's like we have iron lungs, pacemakers. He said for like ocular implants, implants for your ears. We just made the artificial pancreas last year.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. Not either did I. That's crazy.
It's very expensive, and there's a huge waiting list. It's obviously it's vital for diabetes. But that's there. And then the people who don't have that, you have a patch and an app on your phone, and you can regulate it just like that.
My dad just got something like that. He's diabetic, and he's got this little patch, and he's got it's almost like a cell phone that regulates everything. Regulates how much insulin he needs for the pump. It regulates tells him what his blood sugar is. It's crazy.
Yeah, life blood sugar levels, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Now imagine that information strolling to some overlaid HUD in your eye. That's the other thing. Like then AR becomes a thing, and then AR is another whole
nother ball game.
Oh my god! Like it's and the scary thing is that is achievable within our lifetime, and then that distance of shock and awe becomes so much less. Like to us today, if we were to if you got dropped into Cyberpunk 2077 today, and you saw some guy just suddenly unsheathe a huge freaking mantis blade out of their arm and stab someone. But how would you process that as a person?
I think now I just look at myself and be like, you know what? It's 2020. I'll believe anything.
Yeah, 2020. Well, this year has been somewhat of an exception. I was really holding out for a Godzilla rising from the oceans by now, but
we still got a few more days. As we record this, we still got a few more days.
Terrible. Come on, Godzilla. Let's do it. I'm ready. I'm ready. Just as the ball's dropping in Manhattan, just comes out, slaps it out of the sky.
That'll be
you
great.
don't get 2021. It's month 13 now. Yeah, I wouldn't be half surprised. 2020 has been a crazy year.
Crazy nuts year. So we're coming up on almost an hour in this wrap up.
Jesus. All right.
So I don't know where we want to. Conrad, if you had anything else you wanted to include or whatever, because I'm gonna have to edit this down.
Okay.
I waffle. I'm sorry.
No, I didn't even realize we went as long as we did. It didn't seem like an hour. I thought it was maybe 20, 25 minutes. I looked at the clock. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, we seem to get into these long rambling talks about human nature, I think.
Again, so I guess to just restate it, if it hasn't been said at some point, this is the importance of playing games like this and thinking about it, because we're constantly trying to figure out who we are, and that's difficult enough prior to the inclusion of nanites.
Yeah.
But it gives a platform for thinking about it in just more open and generic terms. It does right back to the beginning with the creativity. You have the freedom here to explore who you are beyond the scope of, rigidity. I think about it all the time personally, or myself. I have a body that I don't want to have. So it's from chronic illness that prevents me from doing things that I want to do. And I think about defining myself, where I used to define myself by athletics. I used to define myself that way, and it was a huge part of who I was, but I can't do that anymore. And so trying to define myself today, and it makes me think too about, wow, seniors who get the shaft with basically everything, how they view things and try to define themselves when they lose control of everything going on with their bodies.
Yeah.
And is that who you are? Your body, what your body can do? And it's no, it's not. And you shouldn't define yourself that way. And you shouldn't define yourself with a lot of ways. You shouldn't define yourself by your finances. It's a part of you, it limits you, but it's not who you are.
That is absolutely true.
Yeah.
And if there was one message that I could say to anybody watching this fleshy tapioca pudding stuff that you got going on in your brain and doesn't matter. It's who you are as a person that matters to us. To me specifically, I don't care who you are as a player, or as a person or a member of society. You are an incredibly unique and complicated, literally a statistical miracle that you are who you are today. And it is important that you don't limit yourself based on this fleshy bullshit that we got born into. Myself, I suffer from ADHD. I would love to carve out the piece of my brain that puts me on this. And sorry, language, but I suffer from horrific bouts of depression every now and then. And I need medication and I need therapy to regulate that. There's always going to be a desire to be something that you're not, but you as a person are phenomenal, and you're capable of so much. All of us are. And it's just, don't worry about the body stuff if you can, and if you've got stuff that you need to deal with, then sorry, and it's hard, but it's the part that science can't define, the part that I think is going to be the hardest part of transhumanism, that matters the most, and that is your personality, who you are, your decisions you make as a person. Those I don't think can be replicated, and I don't think it will be replicated. So, don't lose hope. You don't need to have a weird snake body or 4 heads or 20 arms to be amazing. You're amazing anyway. So. Mwah.